I'm going to go formal. Hello, everybody. It is 2 o'clock on Thursday, which this is one of my favorite times of the month. It's afternoons with AzTEA. And we are here today with Creighton, and they're going to talk to us about their Tech Mentor program, which we're going to turn it over to them in about 3 seconds because they've got way more cool things to say about it than I could even do justice to. This came up because I was at the where were we? We were at the town hall meeting, right? No, it wasn't. No, it was CIO CTO chat. CIO CTO chat. So AzTEA has a monthly CIO CTO chat. It's in person. It's, where we can all kind of say what we're really thinking type thing. We don't let the AIs in the room there. But we get to have real conversations. And so they were coming in to talk. You hosted last month, right, Russell?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And so they hosted, and so when a district hosts, they get to show off some of their coolness. And so that's why these three are here today, because the program that they talked about, we had to share out and invite them to share out even more. So can we dive in? Emily and I will just kind of sit back, but Russell, would you guys like to introduce yourself briefly? And then we're going to ask you about the program. We're going to run through some questions, and everybody say hi in the chat. And shall we dive in?
Great. Well, yes. So thank you so much. Hello, my name is Russell Denault. I am the Director of Technology for Creighton School District here in Phoenix.
And my name is Robin Griffith, and I'm a technology manager working with Russell in our IT department. And I get the honor of working on the technical side and also working on the instructional side with Caitlin, doing professional development and coaching and mentoring with Caitlin.
Yay. And I'm Caitlin Murphy. I'm the instructional technology specialist in the Creighton School District. And we just have the best job in the world doing what we do here in Creighton. So we're excited to be here today.
I love it. I'm so glad. Emily, do you want to say hi or introduce yourself or anything, or do you just assume everybody knows you? Because they should.
Everybody knows Emily.
Everybody knows Emily, Assistant Director of Technology EdTech at Vail. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
I've never gotten her title right once, so if I got it right today, we're in really good shape. So cool. So why don't we dive right in? The structure of the day is we're going to chat with Creighton. They're going to tell us a lot of great things. As Emily just dropped in the chat, feel free to use the Q&A feature or drop your questions directly in chat. Side conversations in chat are highly welcomed. It sometimes takes us in a different direction with the conversation we're having to hear what you want to know even more about. And you can talk to each other and just network. So there's great things happening there as well. So the first thing, can you give us an overview of the program so that people know what they're going to be hearing more about today?
Yeah, I'm going to popcorn. Oh, I was going to popcorn Robin to see if she wants to share kind of what the TMT program is.
Yeah, our TMT program has kind of had an off and on history in the district. We had TMTs a number of years ago when we were part of actually a federal technology grant that had technology mentor teachers as kind of having an integral role as part of that. And then when we lost that funding, as happens, we kind of lost most of our TMTs. Actually, Caitlin's position kind of came out of that thing and became a district position. And so our current iteration of technology mentor teachers is a program where we approach our site leadership, our principals, to choose and nominate someone at their site to be their technology mentor teacher at their site. This is a stipended position. They receive additional funds beyond their contract time to spend time supporting their fellow colleagues and their one-to-one technology initiatives on their site. And so that's kind of like the 60,000 foot overview of what they do and kind of the history.
Totally great. The only thing I would add in is with this program, sometimes people see or hear technology like on their forehead and people just assume it's IT. And what's really special about our program is it's teachers who are only supporting instructional technology on their campuses.
Yeah.
And they're really leaning into that. So it's a really fun partnership between our department and getting to know IT and district initiatives and how we bring that back to the sites. But it's also this fun two-way relationship where our TMTs are also sharing, this is what's the need at our campus today. How can we support it at the district level? So it's really fun to work with that, but really instructionally focused and not IT. We have fabulous techs to do that, but even better TMTs to handle instructional.
So they're
Yeah.
not fixing like the printer in the
Yeah.
classroom when it's jammed up. That's a hard thing to not do, right? If you're
Correct.
there
Mhm.
and they're assuming if you know that, like I talk about it, like I know how to drive a car doesn't mean I know how to fix a car. And
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
what I learned over time is the further I got away from tech and more, the less I actually knew how to do. So eventually I became kind of dangerous. So
Right.
I don't know if any of your tech mentors start out instructional, right? They don't start out IT. So they're
Well,
no.
they are currently active instructional teachers.
Okay.
And so they are a member of the staff at the school. That this TMT role is just one that is additional to what they do all day long. So they're not going into people's classrooms during the day unless they have a prep and could do that. And so it's an add-on. It's an extra hat for them.
That's really
So,
cool.
and then when we do professional development with them, which is a required part of the program, we do constantly and consistently encourage that, I know that you want to help them with that wireless issue. I know you want to help them fix the printer in their classroom, but really, actually the techs may need to know that there's an issue with that. And so we need to route it to the lane where it needs to go. And so we encourage them, and then they can encourage their teachers.
And with some of the data-driven focus that we have with this program that we're very excited to share with you more in depth, that allows us an avenue to do a little bit of measuring of how we're using the time within the program that aids in the conversations and the training and the reinforcement of the purpose and the mission that we have with this program too.
Well, now we can go in I kind of want to go in two directions right now. I want to keep diving into this, but I also would love for you to share the story about how this whole thing came about. Now, Robin touched on it, but I know there's a lot more to it. So which direction do you want to go? Do we want to keep, Emily, what do you think? Should we keep going in this lane right now and circle back to how it came about? Or do we think the historic foundation will help tell the rest of the story? I'm chicken egg here. Not it. Emily's not making a decision.
Emily's not it.
All right.
How about foundation? Let's talk a little bit about what led us to this point.
Yeah.
We had such a great opportunity. I'm relatively new to the district. I'm about 3 years here with Creighton School District. Caitlin's been here a little bit longer as was a classroom teacher and joined us about 2 years ago. Robin, I'm forgetting exactly how long you've been here. If you'd like to share how long you've been with the district.
Yeah, I've actually been in Creighton since 1991. I've been in my current position since 2005. And I was actually a student in this district as a child, so we won't get into that. They can't get rid of me, I guess.
We have this really beautiful mixture of long-term experience with Creighton, understanding the history of how technology has evolved within our community, as well as some folks that have other contexts and experiences in other environments and can bring some of the lessons and successes from those other places. And I really think we mixed all that together. You took those prior technology mentor programs that fulfilled a mission that was relevant to the time and the needs when those were present, some of the institutional memory that those were successful in that time. And then we leveraged a couple other things, with the ESSER funds that are soon coming to a close. We seized a little bit of an opportunity to say, hey, remember how great this program was. Now, given that we've all moved into one-to-one, the landscape of how we're using our technology is becoming more and more prominent, critical, and the support structures that we need in order to maintain a successful technology program for our classrooms is so incredibly important. And so it's really nice when you can just kind of stand somewhere and there's two trains coming right at you that are just right at the right time to grab and seize that opportunity, and reintroduce a program, and transform it a little bit to meet the current needs of our communities.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Russell touched on it with this program. This is now in its second year of this iteration of our TMTs, and 2 years ago, that's through COVID, we were able to shift from not one-to-one to a true one-to-one program. And historically, we had one-to-one devices, let's say in our classroom, but each device wasn't assigned to a specific student. It was 2 years ago that shift happened in our district. So if I'm absent, I don't just get to go, or someone can't just use my iPad, it's Caitlin's iPad. And if something is wrong with your iPad device, then we go to the office and we get you a new device ready to go. And that is a big shift in our district. And it was a big, philosophy kind of shift. And our TMTs really came about at that time as well to help with procedures, systems on campuses, and to really reinforce our IT goals of this is how we need to keep our new ecosystem of devices organized to ensure that the device doesn't inhibit any instruction. I mean, it should be really used to keep instruction going. And so with that time, when this program started, our TMTs were a huge front man on their campuses and support alongside their site leadership as well. And then as the program has developed in year two, that is no longer a priority. It's hardly something we even touch on. Now it's really just instructional focus of different softwares or how we can leverage the technology, because we had such a great, strong foundation with our TMTs laying those procedures and foundations at their school site.
And Caitlin and Robin both did a masterful job with identifying that like, hey, you're an IT person, while we get these logistical things figured out, so addressing that immediate need with that longer term planning and the flexibility and the goal to move into an instructional, a purely instructional resource for the teachers at their sites.
So were you all confident and comfortable with having or was it more organic? With having year one being that structural foundations, putting protocols in place, changing thinking, getting the system solidly, getting the foundations in place. Like, how'd you feel about that? Because that's not the bright and shiny. That's not we're gonna, be in the news, and you know what I mean? It's all the stuff that needs to happen that often doesn't necessarily, because we're looking for really quick, results or whatever.
One of the,
impact.
Caitlin and I were actually talking about this before the meeting. I kind of went back and reminded myself the other day, we developed some guide documents for our site leaders and TMTs to use, that included, as full one-to-one assigned to individual students was being implemented on their site. Here's a timeline of what do we need to think about during the summer before we get there? When we get there, what do we need to have in place in terms of checking out devices to students? Physically, how are we going to do it? Who's going to be involved with that? What systems are we going to use? How do we get digital agreements signed and all of those type of things? And so we gave them some guidance in terms of look-fors and what they might need to talk about, and kind of some sentence stem questions about, how are we going to physically do that? Where are we going to do it? Where do we want to tell IT to take all the iPads to prep them during the summer, so that when we get back at the end of the summer and we're getting ready to do a big cattle call with the kids coming in to check out their iPads, how are we going to do that? And so we kind of gave them some guidance. We didn't tell them how to handle it. That's, may look different at each site as it does, but yeah. So that was something that we did. And then we did training with the TMTs before the school year started to try to assist them with some information and some helpers. And we have been doing that since we started this iteration.
That's one of the Tony, I totally see you. And in a sec, we'll pause and ask you to chat with us. And but one of the what I wanted to point out, one of the kind of through lines that I kept hearing as we were talking is this idea of having, like you said, like they're making their own decisions at the site level. Like you've got your TMT, like they know their site. And Robin, you spoke when we were talking and planning about the idea that they're the ones who know best, right? Like you all. So I guess I just have questions on how you, Russell, maybe like how that culture is created. And I know that's a bigger question than we could do in, the next 40 minutes, but can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think building a culture of trust and channels between all the various functional areas and departments and teams that make our schools and our school districts work, it's the vital groundwork in order to build any successful program, especially for the long term. And so, I personally don't come from an instructional technology background. I've been blessed with having a team that is amazing and experienced and full of wonderful ideas, and we've built that relationship internally. But it's also a matter of being able to go back to the business office and have discussions about the costs and the benefits to those longer term elements.
And that circles back to your year one. You have this foundation year where a lot of stuff's happening underneath, and now and so you had to lead through year one, and like Russell, you had to be pushing out to your leaders that, like, yeah, we're not going to necessarily, you're not going to see did you have any sort of conversations like that? Like, or did it just happen organically as it's going and we're building the plane as we're flying it? Or both?
No, we had a pretty clear vision, and I would say one of the other blessings that I had coming to work for Creighton, I've worked for a few different school districts. I've spoken to many different people, through some of my responsibilities throughout the state of Arizona. And this is not a universal opportunity, but not only do I have the time and the place to work closely with my own business team and the business and the finance teams that I'm part of as the business and operations team. I'm also invited to have a seat at the educational services team as a full member of leadership on the educational services side too. And Dr. Dupin, our assistant superintendent, at one point had to very nicely set me aside because I kept saying, I'm not a teacher. I'm not experienced in these things, but here's what I think if you want to listen to me. And he said, no, you're a full member of both of these teams, and we need to hear your perspectives, and that his gift of that to me to speak, to have ideas and bring them to the table, to build value for the educational side of our house, is that exactly that kind of trust. So I work very hard to build that myself, but to be part of an environment where that is already present, it's easier to grab onto a channel that is already there, rather than try and build it from the beginning. And that's really a major part of our goal with this program, is building relationships both formally through the technology mentor program. So we have at least one person on every campus that has a close, tight-knit relationship with members of the technology team and can reach out and maybe have conversations that they might not be otherwise willing to have. And that we have somebody to reach out to, and building a little bit more bridge building out to the school. We have a greater presence with a person who is a deep embedded member of that school, and the channels are there, and so that next big lift is that much easier for us to tackle. And we don't know what the next big lift is, but we know the technology mentor teachers will help us achieve that at our schools.
Dang, that's like a commercial. Like there should be music coming after that, right? That was so good. That was fantastic. So what I like, all of that was great. And what I kind of hear, Emily, I don't know what you think, but they're like, they took away the they. Like there's no way, it sounds like, for anybody to be able to say, oh, well, they're making me do it. or they're making this happen, or they're doing this to me. Like there is, because I've had that, right? Well, they're making me do it, and I'm like, I'm they. So let's talk. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that's really cool. Emily, do you have any thoughts that you've been sitting back there quietly and talking in chat? So what are your thoughts?
No,
Or am I
I
missing
I
anything?
love this. I just the first time I heard about this, we have a similar team in Vail, but it's not in that we have a teacher at every school that does this kind of role, but it's just very, you guys are doing it so much better that I'm excited to take it and hopefully take those, the hours and the support level and those kinds of things and implement that in what we do in Vail. It's really cool.
And so
And
you laid
something that,
yeah.
oh, sorry. I was just going to
Nope.
say, kind of speaking to that as well. And someone asked in the chat, what does the hours and allocations look like? And I think that this all kind of ties in together. Our teachers who are TMTs receive a stipend for 60 additional hours of work outside of instructional time. And of that time, 10 of it is in quarterly meetings led by myself and Robin. And then the other 50 is on their school campus working on different initiatives or creating content to share amongst their TMTs or what have you. And what Russell was saying about the space and channel to be able to have the freedom to ask questions or kind of having the space to be vulnerable about, oh, my school may be struggling with this usage. What is your school doing? We leverage a lot of collaboration in those meetings, but also through Google Chat. They have a safe space. They have a Google Classroom where they all create resources and share. And those spaces allow, it really allows our team to kind of step back and let our TMTs really run the show on a lot of the needs that they have. And we had talked about year one being foundations. I mean, that was really easy to get the teachers on board with that because they're all teachers and know the first thing you need in your classroom is procedures. And so just anything that we do is really, they help ground it back in the instruction and in that day-to-day trenches of the classrooms. And then we can then collaborate as a group about what does this look like amongst our different sites. And now let's go do, and then come back and talk about it. And that safe space is really what I think cultivates the strong community that we have.
Yeah. Well, and the philosophy that nothing works better than colleagues helping colleagues. Because that's how you end up in the they, right? The district people coming in and they're here to help me, but they're not a close colleague on my site. That's just a very different relationship. And so you just try to leverage that relationship.
I did have an experience when it was at some point in my career where I was working at a district level and I was, coming out to a site and somebody at the site literally said, "Hey, I'm told that district said I had to have her here, so you guys have to listen to her." And so the meeting is yours. And I was like, that's a hole to
Thanks.
dig myself out of. Thanks for that. You know?
Yay!
Not an opening to a trusting conversation at that point.
Can I just go home now? But that was kind of, just maybe somebody dropped a pickle jar on their feet. I don't know. But it was just one of those where the kind of antithesis to what you're talking about, not building, the bridge wasn't built. You're right. The bridge was burnt down before I even walked in there, like as I walked in the tour. But it turned out to be just fine. So as you're moving into year 2, you've got foundations. And now we're not even moving into, you're almost done with year 2. It's March, right? Yeah, we're almost done. So yeah, gosh, what's been happening? What's been happening this year? More
What
than
hasn't?
we've already talked to. I know,
What
right?
has?
Yeah.
I think this year has really shifted from, last year was a lot of great foundational work, and we had a lot of new programs that we were introducing in our softwares that we were introducing in our district. And I think this year, and maybe Robin, definitely add because what you think, but I think most of the work that we've been doing with our TMTs is truly not groundbreaking work. It's not the newest, craziest thing in ed tech. It's how are you as a leader, and these TMTs were selected by their site leadership because they're really strong teachers and they love to use technology to enhance learning. So it's what are the strategies, simple practices that you're doing in your classroom that really maximize your instructional time or your instructional effort with your students. And it's hearing those applications and then creating resources or leading trainings or one-on-one meetings to help the other teachers get them there. So I think that's the kind of hard part. Sometimes we have TMTs who are like, oh, I don't know what to share. I mean, I'm coming up with new things. It's like, we don't need you to come up with new things. We want you to share why you're so awesome and get more teachers to do those things that you were already doing in your classroom. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have kind of used this opening to share our TMT website link is now in the chat. And so if you'd like to take a little, if any of the attendees would like to take a little look at that, some of the work that has occurred in our meetings is right there front and center on the front page, because when we first got them together, the first thing that we always have them do at the beginning of each year is create a little information card about themselves, introducing themselves to the rest of their staff. And because sometimes not everybody knows everybody very well. And this is, like I said, an extra hat for this person. And so they introduce themselves, they talk about things that they like and that they're interested in, and what their desire is to help their colleagues during this calendar year. As your TMT, I'd like to help you with this, and these are my goals, and please contact me here. And before they leave that summer meeting that they have with us, we have them schedule an email that is going to go out to all the staff at their site with that card attached to it. And so it's a way for them to introduce themselves. So that's kind of the front of our wonderful website.
And I just wanted to touch real quickly. We are working on so many, well, let me say it this way. We'd love to be introducing artificial intelligence and the greatest new tools in the room and revolutionizing the classroom, and we are going to get there. But just like last year was foundational in the logistical processes piece, Creighton is a wonderful district and we have tons of amazing teachers here. But like most of our Arizona districts and nationwide, many of our teachers are new every single year, right? And so our goal is to meet the teachers where they are and with the needs that they have, and help build up from that foundation. And so Robin and Caitlin have been, and all of the technology mentors, just by focusing on those and building those leadership skills and building capacity with their teachers, we're confident we're going to get to that the revolution with the use of our technology. But we're being very careful not to leap so far ahead we leave everybody else behind us too.
I'm going to argue that the work that you're doing in this, I don't know, is revolutionary. Emily, I don't know. Do you agree? Like the fact that you're focusing on the relationships, the verticality, I don't know if that's really a word, of the relationships, of the communication systems, the structures. You're giving really solid, safe guardrails.
Guardrails.
Yeah, guardrails. Thank you. And all the freedom in the world to express within what they're doing, and recognizing them as the experts in the space that they're at. Like, I don't know, that's pretty, I think I might call that revolutionary, and far long lasting to have all of that foundation piece. I'm clearly not fangirling at all, right? But to have all that in place and to really be recognized and advocating for all of that human connection, which is so essential, because we can put new devices in classrooms. We could, we can figure out how to make that happen. We could bring AI, but none of that is going to be as effective without any of the stuff that you're doing right now, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yep.
There's a term that I think did originate from the education space about communities of practice. And while we haven't been explicitly using that term or that framework, the goal with the TMT program is to build a number of communities simultaneously. The TMTs are a community that can lean on each other, and they lean on our instructional technology team. They lean in together with their teachers, and ultimately with the district leadership and our instructional direction that we're taking. And so our goal, we love technology, but I've learned as I've evolved in my own career, I still love the stuff and the computers and the software, but it's the people and the relationships that we're getting the most value out of.
Yeah. And I think this really ties in, like Emily and I are lucky enough to be part of a CETL cohort that AzTEA is putting on, right? And I feel like, Emily, they are embodying what you're going to be teaching about tomorrow when we speak into, how do you really think like a CETL, and how do you, which is Certified Educational Technology Leader for anybody who's watching that may not be familiar with it, but it's a COSIN designation. And everything that you're doing is speaking to the process of developing those teams and really going from I'm wanting to say top down, bottom up. And I hate to say that because I don't like to say like the vertical expression of that in a negative way. It's not. It's just it is the reality of we need boots on the ground, people who are doing everything, and to recognize and respect that they're the experts in that area. And then at the district level, we're experts in our area. And, so often we have never the twain shall meet, but you're really breaking down all those barriers. So I think that's really cool. Would you be willing to share a little bit about, Robin, I know you did such a great job of talking about how it looks different at each site, and you've given some examples, like the 50 hours they spend, you don't decide what they're going to do, right?
No.
And so
No.
can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, we began and we did this before. One of the things that you will see, I'll begin with this. One of the things that you will see on our Technology Mentor Teacher website is a program statistics tab. And on that is a wonderful dashboard that actually Caitlin built that is based on some data that we originally were collecting in a Google Sheet from our TMTs in order to just have them document for us, what time are you spending doing one-on-ones with teachers? What times are you spending doing, group trainings? What amount of time do you spend creating materials to share with your teachers? And Caitlin used Looker Studio to create this dashboard so that we could visually represent that information. And it's really powerful. Everyone that sees this really loves it. And it's interesting at the top, what you're seeing here in this data set is all of our TMT's work. But where you see the little letters TMT, you can pop that open and you can just check one site and just look at one site's data. And what you'll see sometimes between sites is at one school, one-on-ones really are the thing. That is just because of scheduling, because of, different human relationships, different leadership styles. That TMT really does most of their work in one-on-one times with teachers. At other schools, they are given a little bit more large group meeting times. And so you'll see a little bit of a difference in the profile in terms of how they spend their time. And so it's very interesting to kind of spend a little time and look at this. And again, this is just pulling that data from a live Google Sheet. And so it's just a really great way to represent, and you can kind of see the differences in what goes on between one site or another. And it's very useful, of course, for Caitlin and I and Russell, if we see a site that maybe needs help. I mean, we could have seen that from our spreadsheet, but it's really easy to see it here if that TMT is just really having some trouble. What do we always hear, Caitlin? We always hear, I don't know, I keep offering my services to everybody, but I can't get them to let me in, or those types of things. And so one of the things that we do in our meeting time with them is we make suggestions, and we actually have them kind of turn and talk to their shoulder partner about, what have you tried? I see that you're doing some things at PLCs or at grade level team meetings, at your site, how are you doing that and what are you doing? And they will share with each other. They're also creating materials for the teachers at their sites, but each of our TMTs has their own Google Classroom launchpad that they're using to provide professional development resources for their staff, and they will share each resources with each other. So it's not like everybody has to create their own stuff. Everybody can kind of share the wealth and things. Would you add anything to that, Caitlin?
I would say, I mean, fabulous recap. I just think it's really cool, this data dashboard. And I do have to say really quickly, this was developed because I had the opportunity to work with Sean Abley in the Gilbert School District. And she has something similar with her ties over there. So big shout out to Sean, because once I saw hers, I said, oh, we could definitely leverage this in Creighton. And so she's a huge shout out to her. If you need anything, you could always reach out to us, but Sean's also a great resource. But kind of speaking to what
she's got
Robin,
like 10 years of data, doesn't she, Caitlin?
Yeah, which is
yeah,
really,
her dashboard is
that's
intense,
a dream,
man.
Oh. I think too, like Robin was saying, is that our dashboard is actually relatively new. We created it this year. And Russell had said this earlier, we have a lot of trust and faith in our TMTs and how they're using their time. But I think this dashboard itself allows us to be really transparent about the outcomes of our program. And there's different tiers to that. As Robin was saying, our TMTs can sit in a meeting and look at their own data and say, I'm realizing I'm spending a lot of time in planning, but not enough time in one-on-one work. So how can I get there? And they can use other TMTs who are exceeding in that category to help one another, which is really cool, because once again, then it's not us leading them, it's them leading each other. It's really collaborative amongst the TMTs. Another thing that I think is really great is this data dashboard speaks to, and this is more of our district level people who are looking at our data, they can see the impact of these 9 TMTs. I mean, of our 9 TMTs, 617 staff members have been worked with off of instructional technology outcomes. You can see the audience that they spend most of their time with. The primary audience is teachers, which is exactly what we want. You can see that most of that time comes from one-on-one, which is perfect, because that's where you get more accountability or more follow-up with the teachers. I mean, it's really fabulous because our TMTs are able to leverage it, but we're able to also say, look how awesome this program is. And as Russell had said earlier, our ESSER funds are kind of coming to a quick end this year. And this is a tool that we're leveraging in our district to say, for a pretty small price in our district, look at these outcomes that we're reaching these teachers. And it just really quantifies what we see in our meetings or when we have these one-on-one conversations. But to have this digitized also just speaks to it in so many different realms, that our finance team can look at it, ed services can look at it, what have you, to make sure that you can just see how great it is, because it is so awesome.
Yeah. The board could look at it.
Yeah, the board can look at it.
The trust that we talk about within the district is how we are successful. We don't want to rely on trust alone. You know, there will come a time when you have to have conversations and celebrations about what's working really well, and we can have this up at a moment's notice when those opportunities present themselves.
Yeah.
And right now, your primary audience is, we talked about the internal, right? Like within your team, the TMTs, like that's the primary audience for this right now. Not saying it's not available to whoever wants it, but you haven't done any outreach to share this out or do any training on best practices for leadership or anybody like that yet, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I know I'm part of a coordinators group that involves our curriculum and instruction and assessment and special ed departments. And I did, because the subject came up at a meeting about sending a particular person some justifications for programs that had been paid for out of different types of funds. And so I showed this dashboard as a way to show that it's a way that you could show effectiveness of programs. And it generated quite a buzz at that meeting at the leadership level. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. Yeah.
I think just showing the dashboard's like a mic drop moment, right? You want to
Yep.
see some just bam, there you go. You know what I mean? Like, because it's all there. And you said one of the questions that I was going to ask was you said that you're using a Google form to do this. So do they have, do the TMTs have like a regular cadence for when they're updating in order to keep your data updated on a timely basis? Is it like a weekly thing? Is it, you know, and they're site-based, so they're, or is it
No,
kind of,
what's so fun is that we've never said you need to do it by this date or what have
Yeah.
you, but our TMTs are just really excellent of continuously updating their data log or time tracker, as we call it, pretty consistently, because they need it to ensure that they're up on their hours. And whenever we have check-ins on meetings, we always say, okay, time to update your time tracker, and that's
Right.
a reminder. But they're pretty, I would say, pretty accurate.
Yeah, I was going to pat you on the back, Caitlin, because definitely in our agendas, every time we do meet with them, we provide them with space. We provide them with some time. Okay, let's take the next 10 minutes for you to update your time log if you haven't done that yet. And so they just go into their Google Sheet and update those logs. And that I think has more than anything helped with the success of those logs. It's amazing. It's fine to expect people to do it, but sometimes just providing them little spaces on a regular basis to do it is a way to really get it done and move that along. So that's really helped, I think.
yeah, when you've made it easy for them.
Right. Yep.
We try.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Russell, were you going to say something and I interrupted you?
Nope. Sorry, I think I was
Okay.
scratching.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure there because, you know, I didn't want to miss like something amazing. So I'm looking at my notes and trying to make sure of what okay, this is what we haven't talked about yet is the coaching cycles. Like you're using very specific coaching cycles. Does anybody want to share a little bit about that?
Robin, why don't you share about those, and I'll share my screen to show the website.
Okay, so we're sharing about the coaching cycles. Is that what we were talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we a number of years ago, we started an annual process of getting with our site principal leaders and scheduling a time that the district technology instructional team would come in, and we are going to do what is normally called a pod cycle or a coaching cycle at a school. And most educators know what that is. You have a day where you plan, and then you have a day where you teach a lesson, and then you have a day where you debrief. And we do it in the course of a week. And so this is kind of the schedule. In terms of what we now fondly refer to as our tick, we will come in. They have normal planning, grade level planning times with teams. And so for the week, they turn those over to us. They get to choose the week. We come in, and on a Monday, usually we do planning and designing of lessons with each grade level team. And then between Tuesday and Thursday, during that planning meeting, you're going to schedule a time that either Caitlin or myself or one of your instructional coaches is going to come in and support you while you teach a lesson that is enhanced or enriched and supported by some kind of technology. And then on Friday, we'll meet again as a grade level team and debrief about how we felt like it went. Those have been very successful in terms of increasing the levels of comfort, I think, that our teachers have with the use of technology, because you get a little bit of a safe space to try something out maybe while you have support in the room to help you with your kids. It's not just you by yourself. And then we also create these summaries so that the sites and we can help remember what went on during their coaching cycle. The other thing that I left out that happens at the beginning before we meet, usually a couple of weeks before we go to the site for their chosen week for the cycle, we meet with the leadership team and we talk to them about their site initiatives. What's going on at your site. We're not here to come in the door and push an app or push a website or to push a technology tool. This is not about the technology. Often we get a little bit of surprise that our first question is, what are we teaching? What is going on in instruction at each grade level? That's going to be our first question. Does the leadership have any site initiatives like thinking maps or, increasing the depth of knowledge of questions that the teachers are trying to get the kids to in classrooms? What are your areas of focus? And once we find that out, then we have a Google sheet that we use for planning purposes. And we notate and record what the leadership would like us to help reinforce that they are doing as a site initiative during our coaching cycle. And so we guide the conversations during the planning meetings. We will tell them straight out, your principal would really like to help increase the use of some of these tools within our adopted math materials. And so how would you feel about doing that during a math lesson supported by us during this week? And that's how the conversations go. And so that's kind of the quick version of what those end up being. What would you say, Caitlin?
Yes, and totally that. I think it's great. We get the opportunity to work with Robin didn't share this, but something that I know we're especially proud of this year is our work with our special area teachers as well, and working with data collection and learning targets, success criteria, all things that our curriculum department is super focused on with our teachers. And something that goes back to Creighton's history is that Robin and I and Russell, our department works really hard to maintain those relationships with our curriculum department. And so we see the great value of our technology coaching cycles, but our curriculum department loves them because we are magnifying the initiatives that they want to continue in the classrooms, and we're supporting them. We're supporting the instructional coaches and learning more about the technology tools that they could be leveraging. And it's just really fun. It's really fun. Our teachers they go on data debrief day. We also have donuts, which makes it extra exciting. But those teachers always leave and they're always so excited. And there's always a next step of, you've done this now, this week. So how are you going to do it again next week? What's your commitment? And then we can follow up. So that way it's not just a one and done, it's continued progress. So
we make it. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russell.
Well, these coaching cycles and the close work with our curriculum team and those curriculum initiatives, and you add in the technology mentors, and then not part of necessarily our topic today, but this team's ability to so closely work with so many things extends out to their close work with the technology teachers, and pulling all of those threads together is just, again, building on those foundations, building that trust, and setting us up for more initiatives further down the road that are all closely aligned with the work that we're doing as a whole district, rather than just a technology department or just an instructional technology team.
And I would say the last
I was just thinking that sounds like you guys are very closely aligned with your plan for the district. So everything is aligning and working towards the common goal, so that you're one team, and it's not technology and curriculum and everyone else. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing I would say about our coaching cycles and with our TMTs, the effort that we're putting into maintaining transparency and these public websites. And after a coaching cycle, we always share a highlight. Anytime that there's something that's aligned with our TMTs, we share it with our district. And I think sharing those successes really publicly and often is great because we know how awesome the programs are, initiatives are, and the teachers in that school might love it, but it's really important to us that that's being shared throughout the district, because we don't just have our success stories. We have pictures and videos of our kindergartners creating solar system models, and look how empowered they are. And then we also have the data dashboards that quantify that data as well. And I think those pieces come together to really tell our narrative and our story and how we're aligned with the district values.
Well, if you don't show it, they won't know it type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily, what else did we have? We only got
I think
like
the only
9
thing
minutes.
I haven't heard anyone mention this, but one of my passions is the fact that I feel like really good leadership is the way out of the problems we have in education. And I love that you guys are empowering these TMTs to be leaders at their schools. I think there's so many leadership opportunities coming up through curriculum and data and things like that, but not as often technology. So I love that you're tying it to the learning. It's not IT, it's the learning, it's curriculum, it's those things, but it's a leadership avenue for those people to grow as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And the more opportunities that the whole district can build to develop those emerging leaders, the better off we'll be, because we in the whole state get to reap the benefits of having amazing leaders that are ready to step up and be part of that solution too. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's through great role models. You know what I mean? Like I've had leaders that were great and not so great, and just to work with the three of you guys, I'm sure they're learning so much from your leadership and role model and all these things.
One of the problems that, I've been going to conferences for years and years and years and presenting and things. And one of the things you hear over and over again from people is, how did you talk to your leadership into all that? How did you get them to let you do that? And having, we've been pretty lucky to have lots of visionary leadership who we didn't have to try to convince that instructional technology was important. And I can't tell you the value of that, but having programs like this that are a leadership breeding ground, we have administrative leaders in the district now that used to be one of our TMTs, even in our older days. And what that does is it propagates your environment with people who understand the value of technology in the classroom. They know what it's supposed to look like, and so they don't question when you come to the table and you want to talk about doing things like this. That there's not pushback on it. There's encouragement, and so that's kind of how you breed a program over time, is having those leadership growth opportunities that are tied to this kind of activity. So I love it.
And is there anything else? I'm looking to see. I had a couple more. Like, there's tons and you just mentioned, it took me to like the question about stakeholders and who are the ones that really benefit. Like, we've talked a ton about the teachers. We've talked about a lot of other people, but are there like surprises besides, like we talked about, it's like leadership breeding ground, I think was the phrase you used before. And that's fantastic. And then one of the things that, if nobody else says, I would love to talk to a little bit of the benefits for your site level leaders. Do you guys have you seen some experiences in that area? Or is there somebody else that's like a surprise beneficiary of the work you're doing? Did I actually ask a question, or did I just make a big bunch of statements? Sometimes when faces go like into the smile, I can't tell, What do you think?
Well, I would have a quick answer to that. I threw a quote in the chat a while ago that is a quote that's always spoke to me from Dan Hasler, that boring stuff on a device is still boring stuff. A lot of people talk about the engagement that technology brings. The technology doesn't bring engagement. It may bring some excitement because you get the stuff out, but what brings the engagement is good instruction and good learning. And that's really what it's about. That's what this discussion's about. It's about learning, and it's about the kids. So my answer to your question is, I would hope the not surprising beneficiary of all of this is our kids. that they learn to look at a device and see a learning tool and not a gaming machine.
Nice.
That's the benefit.
You just got a super prop from Elaine in the chat. She says 110%. Like, woof, woof. Yeah, that's another one. Oh, so we have exactly 5 minutes. And so we're going to start rolling in the direction of wrapping up. I think Tony, did you have a question that you wanted to make sure that we speak to? And did you want to drop it in chat, or do you want to come off mute and actually, here you come. So Emily, you got just dropped in. So come on in and talk to us. So either come off mute and then I'm also going to start dropping some upcoming events in the chat while you guys are talking about this. So, because we got the Tech Town Hall where we talked last month already coming around next week. So, all right, Tony, what you got?
I'd be nervous too if I was put on the stage, Tony. Don't worry about it.
Well, and I have never seen the power of the happy birthday twice as our wait time as much as I use it, like, because I always just, you know me, Emily, I just want to jump in with my next like amazing thing, because we get such limited time to talk about amazing things. And so literally like singing happy birthday in my head twice is happening all the time in order to make sure that I try not to talk over people. So Tony, are we going to give you a...
One thing I could say is Roxy had asked a question in the chat about our dashboard and how we want to collect more data like student learning, student engagement, teacher satisfaction. And I think, Roxy, we're going to continue with our TMT dashboard, obviously, as we move into next year and look out, are there other data points that we want to collect? But I also see a goal for us of taking our coaching cycles and bringing a data dashboard into that work as well, because that's where we work one-on-one with teachers, and we could really bring in the teacher's understanding of how is engagement in the lesson, what did you get from your students, and then hear their direct voices and satisfaction. And I think they're two different programs, but at the core, they're the same. It's working with our fabulous teachers to use technology in the classroom to enhance instruction. I think those two different data sources will really come together to tell a pretty complete picture.
Yep. I agree.
All right. So, last couple of questions. Actually, you know what? We're at 2:58, so we're just going to have to leave some questions unanswered so that people have to come and see you. So where are you going to be next? Because I know you have a couple of times that you're going to be speaking to your program. I think AzTEA might be one of them coming up.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to be doing several presentations at AzTEA this summer, and you can find those because they've now made the agenda active, and all of the courses are there. And so you can search for Creighton, Creighton, and you will find them.
That's going to be exciting. Like, AzTEA's going to be fun. It's in Denver this year, right? So,
yeah.
You know, who doesn't want to be in Denver in the summer? You know, so, okay. Last words. Any final thoughts that you want to leave as your parting words? A favorite quote, image, words of wisdom, something on your desk that you have to share because the world's a better place for people knowing about it. Russell, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I did pull a quote, a favorite of mine. Anybody who's been around me for long knows I absolutely love King Arthur and Arthurian literature. And so mine is from The Once and Future King. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's the novel,
Good
the
one.
not the cartoon, which is also good.
Russell, why did you select that quote? What about that quote spoke to you?
That through learning, all things are possible, and it's not something that can be taken away from you. And Merlin said it, and he's the coolest.
That's right.
Merlin,
He is the
Merlin
coolest.
spoke. So, all right. Anybody want to top Russell, or add value on top of what Russell said? We are at 3 o'clock, so we're going to go into a hard stop in about 2 seconds, hopefully before 3:01, but then we're going to stick around for a couple minutes just to chat after the fact. But
I have a very short one, and that is that adults are only kids grown up, from Walt
love it.
Disney, who is the only
I love
person
it.
cooler than Merlin.
Oh, I sense a battle. Maybe fighting words.
My last thought, and it's not a quote, but I just want to say that I think through a lot of collaboration, I think that we've had a lot of opportunities, especially this last year with ed tech coaches around the state and just learning about what other schools and districts are doing. I would love, like Rob and I love to hear what you guys are doing, so that way we can take different things and bring them into our environment. And we love to be able to extend and share more about this with you. So if you ever need anything, please reach out to us. We'd love to collaborate because we all work better together. So please talk to us.
Awesome. All right. So Emily, anything before I wrap us up? Do you have a
No, I'm just going to give a pump up to what Caitlin just said. I love collaborating, and we've done so much the last year or two in Arizona with ed tech and technology in general. So like sharing the wealth and learning from people.
Yeah, because what's the name of our COSIN? How we accidentally created, I think something like that, how we accidentally created an ed tech network in Arizona or something. But it basically, like, we accidentally made all these relationships, and now we've learned to be intentional about it. And Delilah woke up, so I guess it is time for all of us to wrap up. So anyway, it's been fantastic. This has been an hour beyond measure. Like, what great information. Thank you so much. And the passion, I think, is what really came through, and the camaraderie and the teamwork and the idea. Again, like I said, I think you're revolutionizing education with everything that you're doing here. So I want to say thank you very much for your time, for the work that you're doing, and for being so willing to come in and share today. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So now we are officially off the formal. I'm going to stop the recording in about a second. We do have some really cool stuff going on, and if we'll talk about those. But again, I'm going to stop the